Assalamu alaikum. Get to know your Lord. First part of the Right Belief series by Sheikh Karim Abu Zaid. This dynamic literary work of art's main goal is to revive an understanding the names and attributes of Allah. And understanding the name and attributes of Allah will elevate our faith, strengthen us, and keep us steadfast. This wonderful book is now available in an audiobook format and can be found free of charge on YouTube, channel Karim Abu Zaid. Get to know your Lord. You have nothing to lose.
You will make it through. The fitra is awake in you. With Quran and Sunnah by your side, here's a place where it will thrive. You will make it through. You will make it through. The fitra is awake in you. With Quran and Sunnah on his side, here's a place where it will thrive. You will make it through. With Quran and Sunnah on his side, here's a place where it will thrive. You will make it through.
So, tonight we're going to end this chapter and we'll be covering pages 281 to 284. This will end this chapter on how the arena shifts from yourself. Oh, do they see me on YouTube? They see the screen, the PowerPoint? Wait a minute. I got confused because my hold on. I got to log in on my phone. Give me a second, guys. I can't tell. I got confused because. Oh, they see the PowerPoint? They do? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Let me know if that PowerPoint don't show up because I can't tell. All right. So I was looking at the sisters from the other link, Trovo. Okay, so yeah, by the way, that was the Trovo sisters too. Alhamdulillah. All right, so we spent this chapter focusing on how the arena shifts from you to your children. When Shaitan realizes that you're strong in your iman and he can't get you to deviate away from wal Bara or allegiance to Allah and disassociate from that against that which contradicts him, he'll attack your kids. So we talked about how important it is for us to embed within our children the ability to become critical thinkers in life. What does that mean? That means that we don't hide the real world from our children. We don't want to be like the Amish, like the Mormons, hide the real world, no TV, no radio, no this, no books, so that the children grow up not unaware of the darkness of society and they end up succumbing to it. So we let them know what the real world consists of and that we're living in a world where most people will be in the hellfire. That's the reality. There'll be more people in hell than people in paradise. And even out of the Muslims, most Muslims will be in hell too. In fact, the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said out of every 1,000 people you know, and you probably know only Muslims, 999 of them are going to be in hell. You want to try to be the one that doesn't end up in hell. So we have to teach our children to become critical thinkers in life and teach them that Islam is based on only two sources: the book of Allah, which is the Quran, and the hadiths of the Prophet Muhammad. And if something is not clear, it doesn't matter what Sheikh so-and-so said or what Mufti so-and-so said. It's about how the companions understood something to be. And so what Sheikh Kareem Abu Zayd does to end this chapter, he gives us the story of a critical thinker, a young boy who had to utilize critical thinking in the world in which he lived in. And by the way, I shared this story with you all before. This is one of the hadiths that I shared with you from Sheikh Muhammad Saeed Atli's book. So let's see if you guys remember this hadith. Okay. So this hadith is narrated by Suhaib al-Rumi. He tells us how the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam met with the companions after Fajr prayer one day. And they were sitting in the courtyard of the mosque. And the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam shared this story. He said, back in the old days, there was a king who ruled. And he had in his court a magician. That magician was his right hand for many years. But as the years passed, the magician became older. And one day he went to the king and he said, I am so old now. So can you send me a young boy so I can teach him the art of magic? So the king agreed. And so the king picked a young boy and told that young boy, I want you to come to the court every day so that the magician can train you to take over for him. Now the boy lived out in the farmland. And while he was traveling to the magician's place in the castle, he happened to pass by a big crowd of people. And he was wondering, who are all these people? So he followed the crowd and he noticed that the people were gathered around a monk. This monk was a man who worshiped one Allah. He only worshiped Allah. And this monk was calling the people to believe in Allah. And the monk was a great speaker. So mesmerized by the monk's talk, the young boy listened. And he stayed until the monk was finished speaking. And then he went to the castle to be taught by the magician. And of course, he arrived late. In fact, every day, instead of going directly to the castle to learn from the magician, the young boy was drawn to the monk. And he would stay and listen to the monk do his lecture. And as a result of this, the magician ended up keeping him later than what they had agreed to. And the boy's family was complaining too. They say, why is it that this monk is keeping you so late? And why is it that the magician is keeping you so late? And the magician was complaining about, why are you coming to your job to learn from me so late? So one day, the young boy decided to share this information with the monk. He told the monk, I am so interested in what you're teaching, but because I listen to you, I end up going late to my job. And as a result, the magician chastises me or abuses me for doing that. And then when I go home, my parents chastise me for coming home late. So I don't know what to do. So the monk told him, he said, when the magician asks you why you are late, just tell him that you're late because you had some family things to take care of. And then when you come home and your family complains of you coming home late, tell them that you're late because the magician had you do things. So the young boy took the monk's advice. And the next day, as he was on his way to listen to the monk, a monstrous creature was standing in the road, preventing the people from traveling to the monk. So the young man said, wow, I'm going to see whose teachings are correct. He said, the monk is teaching me to believe in only one God, and that God is Allah, and that Allah is the only one worthy of worship. He said, where the magician is teaching me that there are many gods, and because of the many gods, I can do magic. He said, today I'm going to find out which one of them is teaching me the truth. So he picked up a rock and he said, oh Allah, if you find that the monk's path is pleasing to me instead of the magician's path, then when I throw this rock, allow it to destroy this monster so that the people can get past it. And then after making that dua, the young boy threw the rock, and the rock hit the creature in its eye, and the creature died instantly. And when it died, the people were able to get around it. So the young boy rushed to the monk and he told the monk what happened. And the monk said, oh, my dear child, today you have surpassed me. In other words, you're better than me. So now your journey will begin in life, and your journey in life will be filled with lots of trials, lots of tribulations. So here we see from this story that this young boy, he's like many of us, many of our children, how our children will be when they reach puberty. This young boy, he encountered two opposite perspectives. Even though he was exposed to falsehood from the magician, he was also exposed to the truth by the monk. And this caused him to analyze the two belief systems and decide which one is correct. And that's what we're going to face with our children. We raise our children to be Muslim. We nurture their fitra as a child. We teach them wala, wal Bara, allegiance and disassociation. We give them the ethics of Islam. We teach them Islamic morality. But when our children reach the age of puberty, they're going to have to make their own choice, just like this young boy. So we learn from this that despite what we teach our children as parents, they're going to come upon a crossroad in their life where they're going to have to make their own choices. And unfortunately, guys, many of our children choose the wrong way. That's why we have a high apostasy rate. Unfortunately, we raise our kids to tread the correct path, but they end up succumbing to the world around them. But this young boy, his journey was remarkable because he was able to use critical thinking. And maybe that's one of the reasons why we fail as parents. We shelter our children. We try to make life easy for them. But how many of us force our children to think critically? That's where I believe as a daya we fall short. I shelter my daughter. I told her what she had to do. I told her, you got to be a Muslim. You got to pray. You got to fast. You got to wear hijab. But did I tell her why we pray? Did I tell her why we fast? Did I tell her why we wear hijab? Did I spend too much time working, trying to figure out how to pay the bills? that I didn't take the time to tell her why, so she could use her own discernment, that she can utilize critical thinking when puberty comes. This is how we blow it, guys, as parents. This young boy, he favored the view of the monk. He chose to call upon Allah for help and not magic. Why? Because he was put in a position where he had to use his thinking, because the monk taught him why. The monk didn't just teach him to believe in Allah. He didn't just teach him that Allah is one. He didn't just teach him that no one is worthy of worship but Allah, but he taught that boy why. Why? He used the names of Allah. Allah's the provider. Allah's the sustainer. And he gave examples from the world around us to prove why we fail in doing that with our children. But because the monk did it this way, this boy was able to face the challenges of life and make the right decision. Does everybody get this? And that pivotal moment came when he was confronted with that dilemma of that beast. Because he knew why we believed in Allah, because he knew the power of Allah, he called upon him, chose him, and not the magic he had learned. This is the mistake that I really believe we make as parents. This story is a great example of how exposure to different viewpoints and how critical analysis of the dirt that is going on in the world can help us to shape the truth with our kids to the point where they can make the best decisions. Instead of shielding our children, I shielded my daughter. I protected her. She grew up with family. She grew up, with babysitters, but her babysitters were all Muslim and loved her. Latifa, Aisha, my mother, my brothers. Then we all shielded her. We protected her. So when put out in the world alone, she didn't know how to make a choice. She didn't have that critical analysis. She didn't know why. All she knew is do, but not why. Exposure is everything, guys. So this was a great chapter, and I'm so glad that Sheikh Kareem added this to this book, because again, the next generation. Remember, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that each generation of Muslims will become further away from the truth than the previous one. We are the present generation, and we are the worst. We have to try to make a change with our children. We have to teach our children that they will encounter other ideologies that oppose Islam. But we got to teach them how to use critical thinking. Teach them the why of everything. Why is it, for example, that the Muslim youth today are doing all this protesting against the war in Gaza? Do they know what they're protesting? Listen to what I said. You're protesting against the war in Gaza. You're protesting against the war in Gaza. Let me correct it. You're protesting against the qadr, the decree of Allah. You're protesting against the decree of Allah. War comes from Allah. Teach your children that. Allah tells us in the Quran, He brings war. Man doesn't. War doesn't come from man. It comes from Allah. So you're protesting the qadr of Allah. You're boycotting the decree of Allah. Are you people crazy? You're cursing Muslims because they won't let you go into Mecca. They won't let you go in Medina. with flags on and signs protesting Allah, and you're going to call the leadership kafir. Who's the kafir? The king or you? You don't understand why you cannot go to the Hajj and protest and wear a flag. Who's the kafir? You or the king? This is what happens, guys, when we don't raise our children to think critically because they don't know the deen. How can you be a critical thinker if you don't know what to think of? The parents, it falls on us. We have to nurture that. We have to teach them Islam in its truthfulness with the understanding of the companions, not this watered down version of Islam. So, mashallah, this was a great chapter that Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid included. And again, it all falls on us as the parents. That's why I'm stressing to you young girls, there's nothing wrong with going to school to get a degree. I encourage it because we're supposed to be better than the kafir. But don't lose what your purpose is. The family comes first. Get married. Get married first. Priority. Get married first. And then decide on a degree that's going to benefit you from home. From home. Because your home is better for you if you a woman. It's your husband's job to go out and deal with the beast that's blocking the road. It's your husband's job to protect you from the beast that's blocking the road. It's your job to nurture the fitra of yourself first, and then the fitra of your children. All right, so I'm going to stop right here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.